Alright, a new day. So, where we left off was 3D printing the new spacer blocks for the servos. Those got done last night, ended up going to bed. But you can see with this notch cut out in there, they'll now fit with the servo very well. And so all I have to do is screw these in here, and then actually just glue these in the side of the Bruder frame. So we'll just spend a few minutes by screwing these to these blocks, and then we'll glue the blocks in place. Make sure these screws aren't going to be too long. Nope, should be good. Actually, I should note before I started, I did sand the bottom side of the these spacer blocks, so when they go to get glued onto the inside of the Bruder frame, that little roughness from sanding will give it a nice texture for the glue to stick to a little bit better. So I took my file and kind of filed down the inside of the Bruder frame as well to kind of get that real nice smooth glaze off, and rough it up a little bit and knock down any edges for where we trimmed off those support braces. So we'll get some screws in here. Nice long tedious task here, but like I said yesterday, we had about 40 minutes into the conversion so far. Got a good bit of it done. We should actually be driving this with tracks here just in a few minutes. Once we get these servos in place, we can put the track back on. I designed these sprockets to be the same overall dimensions of the stock sprocket, so the track shouldn't be any tighter or any less or any looser than it was originally. So that should be good there. So here's one. We'll go and bring this over, and as you can see, that's all smoothed down. Kind of took a file and roughed that up a little bit, so it'll be a nice surface for that to glue to. I did do a little bit of test fitting with the sprocket, and so I made this hole a little bit bigger because it needs to come up off the bottom a little bit. So I'll just center that right in there, and that will give it a nice keep the sprocket centered very well. So if I got that there, kind of test fit the sprocket on, and we want to have just a little bit of gap from the bottom of that sprocket to where it'll go. I'm just kind of barely missing it. So, and it actually works out. If you can see inside of this hole here, the top of the servo mount will be kind of flush right with that. So that's kind of a decent indicator. So I'll get my super glue out, get a nice bead all along there. A lot of times like this, I'll just take a piece of some supports or something from the 3D printer, kind of a piece of scrap plastic, almost like a spatula, and even the glue out. It'll kind of get it to dry a little faster and set up a little better. Now I know I got the glue everywhere. Okay, and now as I place this, I'll kind of watch and make sure my hole is lined up and everything looks nice and centered and square. So I like that right there. So I'm going to just kind of hold it here for a minute or so, just so I know the glue bonds. Kind of pressing this together a little bit. And it'll take a number of minutes to fully set up. You can't just go immediately throw the tracks on right now. That glue would pop off, but it's got a pretty good adhesion right now. So I'll just get the other one ready to be glued in. And while that's drying, I'll get the other servo mounted into the servo spacer. The other bag of goodies out here. Again, you see I just kind of ran a sandpaper over on the bottom of this just to kind of rough it up a little bit, just so as the glue sticks, it'll adhere a little better. So nothing major. And now to screw this in. And off camera, I also hooked the other, whatever these things are called, servo adapter. Yeah, my mind, I should have looked that up. But got the other one attached to the other sprocket, so both sprockets are ready to go and be put on the dozer. So I'll tighten that down, and I'll add a few more. Okay, and one last one in here. Kind of quiet, dead time. Get home from work and the wife and kids all went to Pizza Hut without me. Didn't even invite me. Man, oh well, that gives me some time to work on the basement, in the basement. So, again, I'll get my glue out, put a nice bead of glue on here. Kind of spread this glue around a little bit. Actually, I'm going to put just a wee bit more on there and there. Okay. Now we'll get this one placed. Again, we're just kind of get it centered there and get it lined up about like we had before. That looks pretty good. Maybe up a hair. Press that together. And again, give it a few minutes setup, but now you can see how the servos mounted. They actually fit in there pretty well. Like I said, we just had to trim out the vertical supports there and then the vertical supports along the back. But servo mounts really well. You got plenty of room down here for the battery, for the electronics. I'll be adding some steel weights in here, or lead weights. Forgot to pick some up. First couple dozers I did, I just filled them full of BBs, then coated in hot glue. Yeah, it works, it fills in the crack, but some lead weights are relatively inexpensive and pretty easy to do. So I'm actually going to opt for some lead weights that have the adhesive back that I can just stick down in there. So it's a little bit cleaner. And every now and again you'll get a BB that didn't get glued in, you'll just constantly rattle, and that's a little annoying. So here the servos are mounted. I could actually throw a battery, so there's some electronics in here, and run this. So since we put this one in first, we're going to go and test for the sprocket. So I'll put the sprocket on, and I got some longer M3 by I think 12 millimeter screws. One of the items I build at work, it always comes with one extra screw. And for the longest time I'd have piles and piles on my desk, and I finally said, hey, might as well take those home. So I didn't get this on the way. There we go. That's on good. You see the space on that, just a little bit of gap underneath, kind of about how the original one was. Fits pretty good. I'll go ahead and stick my Caterpillar cap in there, hide that screw hole. Now we'll do the other side. So again, just put that, screwed it right onto the back. I kind of 3D printed a recessed area so you knew you get in the right spot. And grab one more of those screws. And right down in the middle. Ooh, I hear the beeping. My dinner's ready. DiGiorno stuffed crust pizza. So, got them in, and sprockets are on. So, now let's add the tracks. Okay, so let's go the tracks on. So, fit this up through there. Actually, they don't hardly fit through there. So, what we'll do is, we'll just hook the receiver up. I'll plug them in. And then I'll plug the battery in. And we'll get the transmitter turned on. Okay, just kind of use the function to run through. And then clip this in there. There we go. So when we look at this side, uh-oh, we're spinning. Didn't get the sprocket on all the way. So, okay, well, I'll need to take that sprocket off and get that put on all the way. It must not have been seated properly. Okay, that was silly of me. It was on, it was seated. I was hitting the wrong channel. The other servo was running. So, that threw me off. I started to take this apart. I was like, wait a minute, that feels tight. So, okay, get this snapped back in place. And, yeah, if I hit the right channel, I was going forward and backwards. And the other servo was running. So, time to put that track on. Let's get this. All that just set in there. And we're about time for a cleanup. I've got a bunch of these parts I need to get out of the way. And you know what? I put that track on without even looking at direction. The direction of the track, when you see this kind of like angling forward, that goes forward. So I think I got the other track on backwards because I didn't even look at my orientation. So, but I'll take this and run it through. Run that under. And for someone who has personally unpinned and pinned real tracks, this is so much easier to do on RC. So, yep, you can see my direction. That's pointing down, that's backwards. So, now we have to look at a channel mix, which actually I like on these Flyskys because mixing channels is very easy. So we'll hold the OK button. That brings us to our menu, so we'll go to the system setup, and I'm going to go to scroll down, mixes. So mix number 1 is currently off, so we'll say I want that on. We'll say the master is channel 1, the slave is channel 2. Positive, we're going to go take that to 100. Negative, we're going to go negative 100. Okay, and now we'll go back to mix number 2 is off. We'll turn it on. This one we're going to just reverse everything else. So master, master is channel 2, slave is channel 1, positive mix 100%, negative mix negative 100%. Okay, now to save this, you hold the cancel button. You'll have that get out there. So I'm going to go and just check me. So forward should be forward, back. So my back is right, but my forward is backwards. So this side is right, but this side is wrong. So let's see which channel that is. So channel 1 seems reversed. So I'm going to go to reverse. Channel 1, I'll reverse it. And it's off center a little bit. So there we go. Hitting the wrong button. So now let's try this again. So if I push forward, both are forward. Oh, now my back is reversed. So this can also be, I might need to reverse my mixes. So I'm not 100% pro at this, so I just usually play a little bit. But I got to forward. So my turn left and my turn right are also backwards. So I'm going to do a little bit of playing with this mixes, and I'll come back when I got it set. Okay, so I did a little bit playing around, had to change a few things. I've done 2 or 3 dozers, and it seems like everyone's not exactly the same, depending on how it's wired, left to right, this, that. So I do want to go over what I ultimately got it done. The only things I messed with was either swapping wires on the receiver itself, left to right, right to left. I did mess with the endpoints. Ultimately, I found that the reversers did not need reversed, so they're all straight through. On the mix, that's where I did change things. So on my mix 1, channel 1 is master, channel 2 is slave. They're both 100%. And then if I go to my mix 2, I reverse the master and slave. So master is channel 2, slave is channel 1, but then positive, negative mix both at negative 100. So, and when we do that, you can see forward is forward. Get my hand out of the way. So forward is forward, back is back, left is left, right is right. So it's all now acting just the way I would expect and hope it would. So, and actually I'm really pleased with these servos. They seem very fast and responsive. So just a little bit of fun having wreaking some havoc on my desk. So and yeah, if you're wondering, this power adapter is pretty shady. That won't be used. I'll get a switch integrated in here, power switch in there, so we can clean up the electronics a little bit. I'm not going to worry about much electronics till I get the weights in there. So I'll have to go to the hardware store tomorrow and pick up some lead weights, or if I can swing by Harbor Freight. The next thing I want to do is start working on the lift actuators. So